This is the Peugeot 3008. Now, it's a car that's been around for a while, we've driven plenty of different versions, but now there is a hybrid available. In fact, a plug-in hybrid. So now it gets a battery and it can even travel on pure electric power alone for a certain amount of time. And as of April this year in the UK, it can be a pretty tempting company car choice. If you want to get a great deal right now on a 3008 or any other new car, go to whatcar.com. But to start with, I'm going to tell you the important numbers behind the Peugeot 3008 hybrid. 13.2 kilowatt hours is the size of the battery that this car gets, but it also has a 1.6 litre petrol engine. Now, officially, it will travel up to 40 miles on pure electric power alone. But then when the battery runs out, you've got this petrol engine to run it like a normal car. Two electric motors, one on the front axle and one on the rear axle, give this car a total system output of 296 brake horsepower, which is a lot. It's also all-wheel drive, but you can still get a two-wheel drive 3008 hybrid. It emits just 29 grams per kilometre of CO2, which is very low. And when the new company car tax bans take effect in April, then it will be a very tempting company car choice against alternative, fully petrol or diesel rivals. It weighs about 340 kilograms more than a non-hybrid 3008, which is quite a lot. It's about 5 Ms. 7 hours is how long it will take to charge the 3008 from empty to full from a 3-pin plug. But if you've got a 7 kilowatt home charger and you plug it in there, it'll take 4 hours to do the same charge. If you pay extra, you can increase the charging speed by getting a different onboard charger, and then it will take 2 hours from your home charger. But it's a shame you've got to pay extra and you can't rapid charge. £36,585 is how much the hybrid 3008 range starts from. But to get the best deal, go to whatcar.com. This one costs £46,735, which is a lot. Styling-wise, there's no real differences to point out between the hybrid and the non-hybrid 3008. As we pointed out before, you get a couple of hybrid badges, and there is an extra flap at the back of the car for the charging port, but apart from that, you can't tell the difference. Inside the hybrid 3008, just like the outside, you can't really tell the difference between this and a non-hybrid 3008, apart from an extra button down here. So among the shortcut keys, you've got this lightning bolt, which if you press, brings you to a new hybrid-specific page of the infotainment system, where you can see some battery information. You can also adjust when you want to charge the battery, if you've plugged it in but don't want it to charge straight away. And it also has a function called e-save, which essentially forces the battery to reserve a certain amount of charge so that if later on in your journey you want to use electric power, you can make sure that you don't run out before then, which is a very handy feature. And you can see on the driver display as well, you've got some battery bits which you don't get on the non-hybrid 3008s. But apart from that, it's just the same as the standard interior, which we are very familiar with and very impressed with. So a good range of materials, all feel very nice, really well put together, very nicely designed. This small steering wheel, which might work for you, might not, and a good amount of space, both up front and in the back. Now, if you're wondering if there's any practical compromise going for the hybrid 3008 instead of a non-hybrid 3008, there isn't. The boot is the same size, although you now can't have a spare wheel. Instead, under the boot floor, you have these helpful storage compartments where you can put the charging cable, which is nice. So when you start the 3008 plug-in hybrid, it will begin in electric mode if it's got enough charge in the battery. And then, as you'd expect, things are very smooth, quiet, relaxing. Decent acceleration on offer as well. But with plug-in hybrids, yes, it's important what they're like in fully electric mode, but it's also important to know how good the transition is between that electric power to petrol power. The 3008 hybrid doesn't do it particularly smoothly, but the bigger annoyance is the 8-speed automatic gearbox, which is fine when you're driving normally, but asks for a quick burst of pace and it's frustratingly slow. At least when it does decide on a gear, the pace on offer is very impressive. 0 to 62 miles per hour is done in just 5.9 seconds. But this is no sports SUV in terms of its handling. So because it has rather vague steering and doesn't feel particularly agile, you won't want to drive it that hard. You've also got a few different drive modes you can put the car in. So you've got electric and hybrid, sport and 4-wheel drive. And depending on what mode you've got it in, that will dictate how the battery and how the engine interact with one another and power the car. And also, obviously this being the all-wheel drive version of the hybrid, stick it in all-wheel drive and it will be all-wheel drive. But you can also get a hybrid version of the 3008 that's just front-wheel drive. So then obviously it will be a bit cheaper, so could be a better choice for some people. It's not as quick, but if you don't necessarily need the all-wheel drive capability, then it could be worth considering. Now, that added weight hasn't had a ruinous impact on the ride. The standard 3008 is a pretty good riding car, and in the hybrid you actually get a more sophisticated rear suspension setup and adaptive suspension, and the effect is that it's pretty comfortable around town. It doesn't really crash over stuff that you might think it could do with that extra weight. It still goes over speed bumps and manages potholes without being ridiculously firm or uncomfortable. And then when you're on the motorway, it's really smooth, nice and flat, so it's comfortable there as well. And then thinking about the rivals that this car's up against, it's got cars like the Grandland X that's got a plug-in hybrid version, which actually will use the same gear that this car does. Likewise, the DS7 Crossback E-Tense will be pretty much a carbon copy of what you get in the Peugeot 3008. But the 3008 is a much better car than both of those other cars. So they might share the same hybrid parts, but as overall SUV packages, the 3008 is by far the better car of those. And it's also priced pretty similarly to those cars as well. If you're looking at more expensive plug-in hybrid rivals, then you've got SUVs like the BMW X5 and also the Audi Q5 TFSI E. But there's no getting away from the fact this is an expensive car, just like those plug-in rivals. The two-wheel drive version is cheaper, but it's still on the pricey side. That's why it can only really make sense if you were going to run one as a company car, because compared to a normal petrol or diesel SUV, it can be much cheaper to run. As a private cash buy, it's too expensive to recommend. But generally, when you're driving normally, it's pretty relaxing, fairly impressive, and it's only really, as I say, when you do suddenly want to floor it, where you get that really boomy engine note through the cabin that just makes things not be quite so comfortable, even though the pace, as I said, on offer is really, really seriously impressive. That was the Peugeot 3008 Hybrid, and if you want even more information on it, go to whatcar.com. And while you're there, you can see our list of deals on every new car where you can save loads of money. If you've enjoyed this video, it would be great if you gave it a like. Any questions about the car, make sure you leave a comment below with your opinions as well, and make sure you're subscribed to our channel because we've got loads of new video reviews coming out every week.